you sit down, you open a book, and you're in control. Right, like it's a safe, contained leisure activity.
Yeah, totally safe.
You can put a bookmark in it and just walk away to make a sandwich literally whenever you want.
Right.
Until, that is, you read a psychological thriller. Because in this genre, the book is the predator, and you, the reader, are the prey.
Oh, I love that description.
Yeah, it's so accurate. And we have a massive stack of sources today. We are doing a deep dive into the 15 greatest psychological thrillers of all time.
Which is honestly a wild list.
It really is. But okay, let's unpack this. Because instead of just giving you, the listener, a standard reading list, we're actually going to dissect the exact architecture of how these authors, how they hack your brain.
Yeah, because it really is a form of psychological hacking. Like, historically, the broader thriller genre might lean on the criminally insane or, a brilliantly evil mastermind hiding in the shadows.
Right, the classic bad guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this source material reveals something infinitely more unsettling. The most terrifying threats in these 15 books, they don't come from a monster in the dark.
No, but at all.
They're built out of ordinary causes, like everyday anxieties and structural failures that completely crush a person's reality.
Which brings us to our very first stop today. Because if we're looking at the architecture of a trap, right, the most intimate, inescapable prison isn't a locked basement.
No.
Or like a remote island. It is your own brain.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's look at S.J. Watson's Before I Go to Sleep. The trap here is pure memory loss.
Such a good example.
Right. The main character, Christine Lucas, she wakes up every single morning at 47 years old, completely stripped of her memories.
Every single day.
Every day. She's forgotten her husband, her son, literally her entire adult life.
And think about the mechanism of what that actually means for a narrative.
Right.
Because memory is the fundamental building block of identity.
Yeah, it's what makes us who we are.
Exactly. Without it, Christine has to use a journal. And she's guided by a doctor just to tether herself to a basic sense of reality.
Which feels so fragile.
It is. But the author weaponizes that vulnerability. Because if your only access to who you are comes from external sources, well, what happens when you realize the people feeding you your reality might actually be the ones keeping you trapped?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The author strips away the concept of the self, and that forces the reader into this profound state of disorientation.
And it isn't just total amnesia that works as a trap either. Like in Alice Feeney's Rock, Paper, Scissors, we follow this couple, Adam and Amelia Wright.
Oh, that book is so tense.
Right. They're taking this trip to Scotland to try and save their failing marriage. But Adam has prosopagnosia, which is face blindness.
Which is just a brilliant biological glitch to exploit in a thriller.
Totally.
I mean, imagine looking at your spouse of 10 years, and your brain processes their face exactly the same way it processes, like, a random stranger at the grocery store.
That is terrifying.
Feeney uses that neurological reality to manipulate the reader's sense of trust. If the protagonist literally cannot recognize the people in his own life, then every single interaction becomes a potential threat.
Because anyone could be anyone.
Exactly. You, as the reader, are constantly second-guessing the identity of literally everyone in the room.
Okay, wait, I'm struggling with this a little bit, though.
Okay, what's up?
If the narrator has amnesia or face blindness and literally doesn't know what is going on, I mean, isn't that just a massive cheat code for the writer?
A cheat code? How do you mean?
Well, like, you don't have to build suspense if you just hide the basic facts from the protagonist. It feels like the ultimate shortcut. Like, of course we're scared. The narrator's just wandering around in the dark.
Ah, okay. Well, what's fascinating here is that I look at it slightly differently. It's actually not a cheat code at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's an incredibly difficult tightrope for an author to walk. Because if the narrator knows absolutely nothing, the reader just gets frustrated and puts the book down.
Oh, that's true. You just get annoyed.
Right. So the author has to provide just enough fragmented truth to keep the psychological momentum going. A lingering feeling of dread, a subconscious habit, or maybe a note written in the protagonist's own handwriting.
Like leaving breadcrumbs.
Exactly. It works specifically because it forces you, the reader, to question your own baseline reality. It highlights how incredibly fragile the hardware of our minds truly is.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, if a localized brain injury can delete your love for your spouse, what even is love? That existential dread is much scarier than, someone chasing you with a weapon.
Okay, That makes a lot of sense. And we see that internal storm externalized perfectly in Dennis Lehaine's Shutter Island.
Oh, a classic.
Right. It's 1954, and U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels is trapped by a hurricane at Ashcliffe Hospital for the criminally insane.
So good.
He's dealing with secret codes, escaped murderers, locked rooms. But the true brilliance of the book is how Lehane uses the literal hurricane battering the island to, like, mimic the protagonist's own mental claustrophobia.
Yeah.
The environment is just a mirror of his corrupted perception of reality.
Exactly. The weather, the geography, the inmates, they all function as the architecture for the collapse of his mind.
But there's a limit to the broken mind trope, right? Like, eventually a character realizes their brain is lying to them, or they recognize they're in danger, so they seek out an external anchor.
They look for safety.
Yeah, they go home. But what these authors do so brilliantly is take that one remaining safe space, the domestic sphere, and completely poison it.
The horror of the familiar.
Yes.
When the internal mind fails, you retreat to your sanctuary.
Yeah.
But in a psychological thriller, the sanctuary is a threat.
Let's talk about Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca.
Oh, the atmosphere in that one.
It's unmatched. The source material explicitly points out that iconic opening line, right? Last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again.
Sills. Every time.
So the second Mrs. De Winter marries this wealthy widower, Maxim, and moves into his massive estate. But there's no serial killer hiding in the closet. The trap is entirely psychological. She is driven to madness by the looming, suffocating memory of his late wife.
And the brilliance of Rebecca isn't that a literal ghost is haunting the house. It's that imposter syndrome is weaponized.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Du Maurier takes this very normal, everyday anxiety of feeling inadequate, worrying that you'll never measure up to your partner's past.
Yes.
And she turns it into a literal architectural trap.
Yes, the house itself.
Exactly.
Right.
Preserved exactly as Rebecca left it. It functions as an instrument of psychological torture.
And then we see that domestic torture take a much more physical, visceral form in Stephen King's Misery.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Paul Sheldon, famous romance novelist, crashes his car in a blizzard, wakes up in a secluded farmhouse, and his rescuer is Annie Wilkes.
His #1 fan.
His self-proclaimed #1 fan. She nurses him back to health, but the caregiving quickly reveals itself as captivity.
To put it mildly.
Right. She literally forces him to rewrite his novel because she didn't like that he killed off her favorite character.
It's the ultimate perversion of caregiving. Like, the nurse becomes the warden.
Yeah.
The bed meant for healing becomes the rack.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
And then Romy Hausman explores a totally different flavor of this in Dear Child. You have a woman, Lena, and her 2 children living in this windowless shack.
Ugh, so claustrophobic.
And the space is militantly controlled by her father, Matthias. He treats the traditional family structure like rules, mealtimes, discipline. He treats it like a hostage situation.
Wow.
Yeah, he enforces the routines of a loving home, but with the threat of absolute violence.
It's like that classic horror movie realization, that the call is coming from inside the house.
Yes.
But in these books, the call is coming from your own family tree. And even taking it out of a shack and putting it into a sprawling mansion doesn't help.
Look at Gillian Flynn's Sharp Objects.
Oh, incredible book.
The reporter, Camille Preaker, leaves a psychiatric hospital to investigate teen murders in her hometown. But the real danger isn't the killer in the town.
No, it's her own family's Victorian mansion. Exactly. She has to stay with her incredibly neurotic, suffocating mother and a half-sister she barely knows. The family home is just a minefield of emotional tripwires.
It really is.
But I have to ask you, does the garden variety derangement we see in Rebecca or Sharp Objects actually scare us more than like an Annie Wilkes abduction scenario? I mean, being kidnapped is terrifying, but it feels so rare.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the reason the domestic thriller dominates the genre is precisely because of that accessibility.
How so?
Think about it. An abduction by a crazed fan is an external anomaly. We can distance ourselves from it.
Right. We think, that'll never happen to me.
Exactly. But domestic pressure, toxic family dynamics, feeling alienated in your own home, those are universal human experiences.
Absolutely.
So when an author takes the family home, the very place where you're supposed to drop your armor, and turns it into a psychological prison, it violates a core human expectation.
It's a betrayal.
Yes. It taps into our deep evolutionary fear of being betrayed by the people and the spaces that are biologically wired to protect us.
Nowhere is safe. You can't trust your brain and you can't trust your living room.
Nope.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because if the family you're born into, or the brain you're born with, is dangerous, what about the alliances you actively choose?
Oh, the chosen partnerships.
Yeah. Because if we view a character as a corrupted operating system, like we talked about earlier, what happens when two of those systems connect to the exact same network?
It gets messy.
Exactly. In this genre, partnerships can be even deadlier than isolation.
It's a synergy of darkness. When two individuals share a twisted loyalty, they can rationalize behavior that neither of them would justify on their own.
Patриcia Hayesmith's Strangers on a Train is just the perfect example of this.
The blueprint.
It's basically a twisted buddy cop movie, except they're both villains and one of them doesn't even want the job. Guy is going through a terrible divorce. He meets Bruno, this charismatic psychopath, on a train, and Bruno casually proposes a perfect murder swap.
Just a casual chat.
Just casual murder talk. Bruno says he'll kill Guy's wife if Guy will kill Bruno's dad, because they are total strangers, right? So the police won't find a motive.
It's twisted logic, but it's logic.
And Guy obviously says no, but then his wife turns up dead anyway, and Bruno comes collecting on the debt.
And the mechanism of fear there is the complete loss of agency.
Yeah, Guy is trapped.
You're tethered to a monster because of a conversation you thought was just a hypothetical train ride chat. Highsmith is really playing with the fear of social contamination.
Social contamination, I like that.
Yeah, just being in the proximity of someone operating outside the bounds of morality can pull you into their gravity.
But then you have willing partnerships too, or at least enabling ones, like Oyinkan Braithwaite's My Sister the Serial Killer.
Oh, such a fascinating dynamic in that one.
It's so good. Set in Lagos, and it follows Khalid, who is constantly buying bleach and rubber gloves to clean up the crime scenes left behind by her beautiful, charming sister, Ayoola.
Because Ayoola just cannot stop killing her boyfriends.
She really can't. And the loyalty Khalid has is absolute, right up until Ayoola sets her sights on a guy Khalid actually has a crush on.
Which is where the tension snaps. And this raises an important question about the psychology of complicity.
Right.
These thrillers operate on the premise that morality isn't a fixed point on a map. It's a sliding scale based on proximity.
That makes a lot of sense.
In My Sister, the Serial Killer, the primary tension isn't really about whether Ayoola will get caught by the police.
No, it's about the sisters.
Exactly. The tension is entirely internal to Khalid. Like, what boundary is she willing to cross for blood loyalty? The author forces the reader into the shoes of the accomplice. You find yourself reading and thinking, well, if it were my sister, would I buy the bleach?
And Kaiga Higashino pushes the boundaries of loyalty even further in Naoko.
Oh, that premise is wild.
It is. An accident kills a man's wife, but his surviving daughter wakes up with the mother's mind and all of her secrets.
So complex.
The father-daughter dynamic is instantly, inexplicably twisted into this husband-wife dynamic. But they're trapped in a nightmare scenario of physical and societal boundaries.
Yeah, they have to partner up just to navigate the impossibility of their own identity.
Exactly.
It forces the characters and the reader to navigate how much of our loyalty is tied to a physical person and how much is tied to the soul inside them.
Wow.
And then we see how charisma can institutionalize this kind of twisted loyalty in Alex Michaelis' The Maidens.
Oh, right.
You have Mariana Andros, a psychotherapist at Cambridge, who starts investigating Edward Fosca. He's this incredibly charismatic Greek tragedy professor who has essentially formed a secret society of female students.
A cult of personality.
Exactly. It's loyalty driven by sheer magnetism.
So the thriller format is practically screaming that darkness isn't just a force that attacks us, it's something we can be seduced by.
Oh, definitely.
Like, doesn't a book like Strangers on a Train essentially suggest that we all have a dormant darkness inside of us, just waiting for the right nudge? I mean, Guy didn't pull the trigger on his wife, but he didn't exactly mourn the fact that she was gone.
That is the core discomfort of the partnership thriller. It suggests that goodness isn't necessarily an inherent trait. Sometimes it's just the absence of temptation.
That is deeply unsettling.
The right charismatic figure or the right familial pressure can flip that switch in anyone.
Okay, so we've looked at the mind collapsing on itself. We've looked at the home becoming a prison. We've looked at partnerships turning into criminal conspiracies. But the source material takes one final massive step backward to look at the macro level.
The big picture.
Right. What happens when entire societies act as the predator?
Systemic nightmares. Because if individuals and families are capable of such darkness, these authors show us that broken societal structures can disintegrate a mind just as effectively as an isolated psychopath.
Now, before we get into these next few books, I need to make something super clear to you, the listener. These books tackle some incredibly heavy, real-world political fault lines.
You really do.
From the justice system to the opioid crisis. And our goal today isn't to take a stance on those real-world issues. We are just outlining the themes of the source material without endorsing or taking a side.
Right, we're just reporting on what the authors wrote.
Exactly. But we absolutely have to look at how these authors use those societal fractures as the literal architecture for their suspense. The thriller format acts as like a spoonful of sugar for the existential medicine.
That's a great analogy.
You think you're reading a fast-paced mystery, but the author is actually downloading a massive critique of society directly into your subconscious.
It's a brilliant way to frame it. The plot is the vehicle, but the societal failure is the engine driving the fear.
Take Long Bright River by Liz Moore. It's set in Philadelphia and explores the opioid crisis through two estranged sisters.
Mickey and Casey.
Right. Mickey is a cop walking the beat, and Casey is a missing addict. The traditional thriller element is a string of mysterious murders in the neighborhood.
The whodunit part.
Yeah. But as you read, you realize the real monster in the book isn't just the killer. It's the crushing poverty, the addiction, and the systemic neglect ravaging the streets. The physical environment itself is a trap that no one can escape.
And we see history acting as a trap in Steph Chaw's Your House Will Pay.
Yes.
Set in Los Angeles, it follows two families deeply tied to a 1990s crime where a Korean store owner shot a black teenager.
Such a heavy premise.
It is. The narrative explores how those decades-old traumas collide again during modern-day police protests. And the suspense doesn't come from a whodunit. It comes from the crushing inevitability of generational trauma. The social structure forces these characters into a collision course.
And Toni Cade Bambara uses that same weight of history in her masterpiece, Those Boned Are Not My Child.
Yeah, an incredible piece of literature.
And an incredible fun fact from the source. It was actually edited by the legendary Toni Morrison.
Which is just amazing.
Right. The book follows a separated couple, Zala and Spence, and they are desperately searching for their missing son during the real-life Atlanta child murders.
Just heartbreaking.
The horrific thriller aspect of a missing child is compounded exponentially by the themes of racism in the justice system. The parents face total indifference from authorities and are even treated as suspects themselves.
Yeah.
The system that is supposed to help them find their child actively works against them.
Which leaves them entirely isolated. And isolation born from societal neglect is a really common global theme in this genre.
Right, for sure.
Just look at Natsuo Kirino's Out.
That one is intense.
Very. A bento factory worker in Tokyo finally snaps and kills her deadbeat husband. Her coworkers, who are completely disenfranchised and exhausted by their own lives, they help her hide the body.
Which draws the attention of a brutal crime ring.
Exactly. But the violence of the crime ring is almost secondary to the biting commentary on the desperate psychology of Japan's social underclass. The economic desperation is the true villain.
So this is what I find so compelling. Do these massive systemic issues, like extreme poverty, a broken justice system, an opioid epidemic, do they make the stories more thrilling in a traditional sense? Or do they just ground the horror so firmly in reality that we can't look away? I mean, because a secret society at Cambridge is fun and spooky, but a mother unable to get the police to look for her missing child because of her race? That is a heavy, crushing kind of horror.
Yeah, I would argue it goes even deeper than just grounding the horror. It fundamentally changes the texture of the fear.
How so?
Well, a traditional thriller offers escapism. You can close the book and say, well, at least I'm not trapped on Shutter Island.
Right.
But when authors use the thriller format to highlight the social underclass in Tokyo or the opioid crisis in Philadelphia, they're showing how societal ills actively create the conditions for a mind to break.
Ah, I see.
Systemic failures are the pressure cooker. When a person is systematically denied justice or economic mobility or basic safety, the boundaries of normal moral behavior start to warp.
Because they have to.
Yes. The horror becomes inescapable because the monster isn't hiding under the bed. The monster is the structural foundation of the house itself.
The monster is the structural foundation of the house. Wow. That is incredibly heavy and completely captures what these books accomplish. So what does this all mean?
It's a lot to process.
It really is. We started this deep dive by defining the psychological thriller as a space where the book is the predator and you are the prey. Across these 15 incredible sources, we've seen that the teeth of that predator come in many forms.
Many, many forms.
Sometimes the threat is the biological fragility of our own memories and perceptions. Sometimes it's the toxic pressure cooker of the very homes meant to keep us safe.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the twisted loyalties we choose, and sometimes it's the crushing weight of a broken society that leaves us with no good choices.
And that layered complexity is exactly why this genre provides such a profoundly absorbing experience. Like, these books refuse to let you be a passive consumer of a story.
No, you have to be engaged.
They demand critical thinking. They force you to constantly interrogate your assumptions about the characters, about the institutions they navigate, and ultimately about the reliability of your own mind. You are actively participating in the unraveling of reality.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over. As you step away from this conversation today and maybe go pick up one of these books, I want you to ask yourself a question.
Okay.
When you are reading a psychological thriller with your palms sweating and your pulse racing, are you really scared of the predator on the page? Or are you actually terrified by the realization that under the right circumstances, with the right memory lapse, the right toxic nudge from a loved one, or the right crushing societal pressure, anyone, maybe even you, could become one?
A chilling thought to end on.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Watch your back, and we will catch you next time.